What I'm going to do is I am going to let folks know on the Beloved Community Facebook page that we're going to be live on our YouTube channel. And I might be able to get us there while we're doing it. So let's begin. Welcome everyone to REframe tonight. This time of centering ourselves and grounding ourselves in a truth that will help us to reframe how we understand the world around us, our part in it, and our relationship with the holy. So we begin this gathering with a centering practice. And our good friend and leader, Susan, is going to lead us in this centering practice tonight.
I invite all of us to assume a comfortable position. If you like, close your eyes or lower your lids and rest your eyes. Take a breath in, breathe out, relax your body and your mind, settle into quietness, and send your attention toward the one to whom we offer our prayer. We continue with the Jesus prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Send your attention again to the one to whom we offer this prayer and give thanks for this time spent in its presence.
Thank you for that. It's always good to create that space that I find so often in the day gets eaten up. So to have that space for silence and for reflection. Our next part is we dwell in the Word, and so we're going to have Heidi read our gospel reading, Mark 1:29 through 39 from the Common English Bible translation. And then there'll be a little bit of a pause. And while Heidi's reading, I'm going to show one piece of artwork. And then Susan will read the same gospel reading from the Message translation, and a second piece of artwork will be shown. And then we'll talk about the intersection of those pieces of art and the gospel readings. So I'm going to share my screen here. So Heidi, when you're ready.
All right, a reading from Mark, the first chapter, verses 29 through 39. After leaving the synagogue, Jesus, James, and John went home with Simon and Andrew. Simon's mother-in-law was in bed, sick with a fever, and they told Jesus about her at once. He went to her, took her by the hand, and raised her up. The fever left her, and she served them. That evening at sunset, people brought to Jesus those who were sick or demon-possessed. The whole town gathered near the door. He healed many who were sick with all kinds of diseases, and he threw out many demons. But he didn't let the demons speak because they recognized him. Early in the morning, well before sunrise, Jesus rose and went to a deserted place where he could be alone in prayer. Simon and those with him tracked him down. When they found him, they told him, "Everyone's looking for you." He replied, "Let's head in the other direction, to the nearby villages, so that I can preach there too. That's why I've come." He traveled through Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and throwing out demons.
The reading from the Message. Directly on leaving the meeting place, they came to Simon and Andrew's house, accompanied by James and John. Simon's mother-in-law was sick in bed, burning up with fever. They told Jesus. He went to her, took her hand, and raised her up. No sooner had the fever left than she was up fixing dinner for them. That evening, after the sun was down, they brought sick and evil-afflicted people to him. The whole city lined up at his door. He cured their sick bodies and tormented spirits. Because the demons knew his true identity, he didn't let them say a word. While it was still night, way before dawn, he got up and went out to a secluded spot and prayed. Simon and those with him went looking for him. They found him and said, "Everybody's looking for you." Jesus said, "Let's go to the rest of the villages so I can preach there also. This is why I've come." He went to their meeting places all through Galilee, preaching and throwing out the demons.
So I ended up picking the artwork tonight, and I'll share why I chose these ones for this particular reading. Because so there's a lot in the reading, but the two kind of facets that struck me is this sense of healing that's taking place by Jesus confronting the demons. And so I chose this one, True Colors by Megan Moore, because I think a lot of times healing has to do, so there's physical healing, but there's also this healing that has to do within us. And I think a lot of the work of reconciliation is a lot of that kind of work of so that in the end, no matter whether it's broken relationships or brokenness in our society and in systems that is causing that inner trauma, that what healing looks like and what reconciliation looks like is that each one of us can say these things. We can say, "I am worthy, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am full of hope, I am appreciated, I am persistent, I am able." I think when we can speak those words, that those words are a sign of healing and of reconciliation happening. So that's part of why, or that's why I chose this particular painting, and I'm fascinated by the fact that it's digital painting. It gives me hope that maybe somebody like me could create something. And this one is a whole different edge of the gospel that I hear. So Jesus proclaims going to Galilee, and he's been talking about Galilee for a couple of weeks now, and Galilee always seems to be where Jesus does Jesus's ministry, where Jesus heals, where Jesus feeds, where Jesus helps the blind to see and the lame to walk, and so I'm sure Maya Green, the artist of this one, which is an oil painting, was really just trying to actually do a picture of Galilee as she saw it, but it made me think, what is our visions of Galilee? Because I think that's the peaceable kingdom, or that's where God reigns, and that Galilee is this beautiful landscape that Jesus is inviting us to live into, where there's abundance, where there's enough for all, where there's growth, where there is a variety. You know, we've got these mountains, we've got the plains, we've got flowers, we've got what looks more like prairie grass. And so I liked this picture of Galilee, even though Maya Green might have meant it more as just an actual landscape of Galilee. It made me think about that question that I think we're each called to consider is when Jesus is inviting us into Galilee, where Jesus' ministry happens, what does Galilee look like? And what is it we're hoping that Galilee looks like? So that's why I chose either of these two paintings. I would love to hear what some of you are thinking about the paintings and the intersection with the gospel.
That's fascinating. I have never ever thought of Galilee as a metaphor for the kingdom, where Jesus says consistently throughout the gospel, he's inviting us to the kingdom. And you're absolutely right. At least in Mark's gospel, it's always the Galilee. So thank you for that. I've never thought about that as a metaphor for where I am with Jesus. Where am I with Jesus? Where are we walking when we walk together?
And this where ministry is taking place, right? Like
yeah.
all the places we can kind of see ministry happening.
I wonder what that red area is. It's so striking.
It is.
It's so eye-catching. I mean, the yellow plains and the tall, it really almost looks like Italy with the, the cypress trees, but that bright red, and it almost as if there's a path that goes over the red into, and I'm waving at it like you can see what I'm pointing to. Sorry. It's right over there.
It's right
there. I don't know. It's dreamlike. It's realistic in one way, and then another way it's completely dreamlike. So maybe that's a good way to think of being in ministry with Jesus. It's completely real, and yet it has to have that dreamlike quality. Well, it does. I mean, if it's infused with spirit, then it is dreamlike and mysterious and completely different from reality.
Right. I mean, you can see how it is echoing reality, and yet it's not exact, right? And it's interesting that you bring up the red because it is, it flows down the mountains. It's off there in the farther off landscape. It's there amongst the trees. It's even through those blue flowers, these strands of red. It would be interesting to find out whether that was just a sense of, like how when you see plots and you can tell the different fields. I wondered if that's what Maya Green was trying to capture. That's how I read it, is this sense of trying to give us a sense through color of different fields and different plots.
Yeah, I think certainly. And it's just a beautiful artistic choice. Because your eye just
so alive. It's so life affirming.
It is. And all of the lines, not necessarily, they all seem to flow toward that red mound. Almost.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm using Bruce's phone. In this painting of Galilee, it's like a real heightened awareness, like a real, like, it's a super visual. I mean, like you said, it's not really a realistic portrayal, and I'm attracted and I'm afraid of it at the same time. Like that red area, I don't think I could stand on that. And when I'm painting myself, and I just did a painting of a New Mexico scene. There was this time when I felt like I couldn't. The ground looked so hot, and I wanted to portray that, so I made the underpainting a hot pink. So I don't know. I feel like it's it's drawing me in, but at the same time, I'm a little afraid, like it's just a little bit, just a little frightening. And maybe that's what the next, maybe that's what heaven is like too. It's like we're so many unknowns.
Well, and I think that's what the gospel is like, right? Like, and I think that's what Galilee is like. Jesus invites us in, and we love this sense of the peace of the kingdom. We love this sense of embracing a diversity, of abundance, and yet the cost that's required is frightening, right? And so, yes, it's both like this attraction and no thanks, Jesus, we're just going to keep you out.
It's a little familiar and unfamiliar at the same time.
Yeah. Just like this picture. Yeah, I don't, because I found different ones and I had different ideas, but I just kept coming back to this one, and I'm like, well, I guess that's the one. We'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah, it's stunning.
Because going the wrong direction. And then this one.
Yeah. This one rivets, the eyes on this one rivet me. It's almost like you're looking, it could be, it's like you're looking into the person, but it's also like they're emitting light themselves. So, and it's whiter than anything. I mean, it's whiter than the white in the background. It's a vivid neon glowing white. And when you were talking about how someone who's healed, someone who's whole can say these words, it's almost as if, the colors are white light broken up, white light healed.
Oh yeah.
White, the brokenness healed is that pure white.
Yeah.
I saw it too. It's like I missed the eyes at first. Because looking at the dark, which my eye will, most people's eyes will go right to the dark. I thought it was a heart on its side, and it's like this dark heart that's lightening. And I totally missed the eyes, but I see that now.
Well, in the gospel, when they go in and Simon's mother-in-law is sick and she has a fever, and then Jesus, goes to her and takes her by the hand, and then she's made well, and she immediately rises up and serves them. And I've heard so many different things about this, including some people being like really annoyed. She was just sick, and now she's got it. But then I also heard the other day, Linda Schubert, when she was talking about this gospel at the Centered Being service on 5 p.m. on Sundays, she was talking about that she had read where this sense of that it's this cycle of that when we were served, and in that serving we are made well, and so then our response out of thanksgiving is just to return the service. And I think that, yes, right, like part of our being made well also then brings us this thankfulness and this gratefulness and this desire to give back, right? And so then, of course, that's why she immediately gets up and serves them, because she has been not in the sense of this kind of patriarchal, you're the woman and go in the kitchen and get me something to eat. But I found that that offering that Linda made, sharing that, was really helpful to me, because that's the first time I'd really heard it that way. But it rings true in my life that when I am unwell, whatever that is, physical, spiritual, mental, to serve is so difficult. But when others serve me and serve in my healing and my reconciliation, so that whether it's physical or mental or emotional, spiritual, that I can come to this place of wellness, then I do feel this sense of gratefulness, and I do have a tendency out of that gratefulness to then share that, right? And the sharing of that often ends up in some way being helping someone or meeting someone where they're at, or all these simple ways that we serve to reconcile kind of the gaps within us. So I found that really, really helpful.
Yeah. it's so simple. It was, who would have thought it was so elusive? It never occurred to me to think of it that way. And yet it's, once you hear it, it's like, yeah.
I know, right? But I'd never heard it explained that way. I've heard lots of different explanations about that. But yeah, I think this painting, what struck me, well, the colors. I love colors, so that's a dead giveaway for me. But those words, you know, how do we help? How do we see another and help them to be able to have, to surround them in such a way that they can say those words?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the answer might be within the words. Most of the words are emotions or assertions about something within the person, mm-hmm. except for loved and appreciated. That has to come from outside.
Yeah.
So I think that's how, I think those really, if you love a person and appreciate the person, that's the first big step toward helping them feel worthy and beautiful and strong and full of hope and persistent and able.
Kind of goes back to that thing that we talked about last week. Of course it does, because these are all strings in a row of a story, but that you'll never look into the face of someone that God does not love, right? And the
you want me to send you that? Because I have that image saved.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I almost, and the other thing that I almost brought in is I found this really cool poster that was recently made that was about essential healers. And it just made me think about all that's going on in the world today. But maybe we can talk about that when we do Dwelling in the World. But I had a hard, I don't know how you do this, Carrie, because I had about 92 things that I wanted to bring instead of just 2. I forced myself to just 2. So now we're going to dwell in the world. So Heidi, if you will pick one version that you like, and we're going to look at some images from the world and do a little bit more intersection of the word with what's going on in the world around us.
All right. Directly on leaving the meeting place, they came to Simon and Andrew's house, accompanied by James and John. Simon's mother-in-law was sick in bed, burning up with fever. They told Jesus. He went to her, took her hand, and raised her up. No sooner had the fever left than she was up fixing dinner for them. That evening, after the sun was down, they brought sick and afflicted people to him. The whole city lined up at his door. He cured their sick bodies and tormented spirits. Because the demons knew his true identity, he didn't let them say a word. While it was still night, way before dawn, he got up and went out to a secluded spot and prayed. Simon and those with him went looking for him. They found him and said, "Everybody's looking for you." Jesus said, "Let's go to the rest of the villages so I can preach there also. This is why I've come." He went to their meeting places all through Galilee, preaching and throwing out the demons.
Susan, let's talk about your images first.
All righty then. These are a pastor in front of his church, a rabbi. The woman is an Asian American rabbi, and then the last is a teacher, a college professor. And the reason I chose these is because of that last scene where Jesus, where Peter and all of the gang go to Jesus and say, "Oh, come on, man, everybody's waiting for you to keep doing your thing. Everybody's looking for you." And it would have been a completely rational and it would have been a fine choice for him to just set up shop right there. He could have started his own church. He could have been a pastor. He could have become the rabbi at the meeting place at the synagogue. He could have become a teacher. He could have been all 3. And yet what intrigued me about this passage, there's so many intriguing things about this passage, but what really leapt out to me was that he just that didn't even come up on his screen. Peter comes up and says, everybody's looking for you. Come, in other words, come on, let's go back and keep doing this good stuff you were doing. Let's keep that up. Perfectly reasonable thing to want. And it would have been good work. And yet it was not Jesus.
Uh-oh. Susan froze. Susan, if you can hear me, you froze.
Frozen.
Oh, there we go. Now you're unfrozen.
Okay.
It was
my
not
internet connection is unstable, so I don't know what that means.
Just a weirdness, the internet.
Yeah, well, I have like slow to middling internet way out here in the sticks. So one day they'll dig a bigger ditch and put a bigger cable in. But yeah, so that's and I really have no wisdom to offer about it. It's just that I've just found it fascinating. And of course, if Jesus hadn't made that choice, we wouldn't be where we are. But the fact that choice didn't even register with him, he didn't even offer them any explanation except to say, let's go to the other villages. This is why I've come. Mm-hmm. This is my ministry. You don't get to choose. Just because I'm popular, just because I'm sought after, just because I do have gifts to give, doesn't mean that people outside of me get to determine my call.
So I have a question for you then. So thinking about that, where do you see the intersection between that tension that you're hearing there and the church today?
I think in the church today, we tend to come up with something good that really feeds people, and we try to harness it and peg it down. We try to. You remember that old illustration, that story about the church being a rescue mission on the coastline, a dangerous coastline, and where people will come up and break on the rocks. And so the church, the few people have a boat and they go out and they rescue people. And they get so good at it and they get so much acclaim for it that they decide they'll build a building. And then the building becomes a society. And then they're more interested in maintaining the society and the society's meeting place than they are about going out and, rescuing. They've spent all their resources and all their time and energy and creativity on pegging it down, pinning it down, making it a thing. And this just seemed to me to be antithetical to that.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think that's a great tension within the church, because it's so comforting because when we peg it down, we know what it is, and then we know how to participate in it, and we know where we belong in that. And when it's just ongoing and moving and just come on, let's go, it's harder to control it. It's harder to know where you participate in it. It's harder to know whether or not you're going to be comfortable in it. It's harder to know. It's that red space that Carrie was talking about. It's hard to know, like, what's going to be asked of you. So do you really want to go there? I'm not so sure.
Well, because we're human beings and we love to congregate. As if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's taught us how much we miss congregating together, not just in congregations, but coming together. And and having repeatable experiences and things we can schedule and things we can measure that have metrics for success. We like to keep track of how well we're doing.
Right.
And so the tension, I think, is between the complete otherness of the kingdom and the strangeness of the spirit and our desire to make everything manageable and make it repeatable. I mean, the Transfiguration is that way, where Peter, let's make booths, and everybody wants to, it's human
Yeah.
And God knows that about us. So I don't know, maybe we're supposed to be cyclical. Maybe we're supposed to do this until we get so concreted over with the barnacles of tradition that we just have to wait for it to crumble in on itself. And then we go out and we start rescuing people again. Maybe it's just cyclical.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know any way around it, but it's very, very, it's a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that tension. I feel that tension in this week's reading and next week's with the Transfiguration.
yeah.
Well, I chose these pictures because I can't help but wonder right now how we heal from the demons that we have within us. And so, yesterday that first video came out that, and I have not watched today's. I've seen a couple of little portions, but I did watch the one yesterday, and it was so hard to watch. And I will watch today's where they had the security video from inside the Capitol. But I then also posted the video because I think it's important that we watch it, even though it's horrifying and horrible. Although I also worry about all the senators and the Congress people who were there because they're victims of a trauma and now they have to relive this trauma as part of their work. And so I just hope they have a lot of good therapists and counselors. But we're just at such a critical point. And as I listen to this gospel of being healed, and how do we get reconciled enough that we can begin to serve one another again, and then that tension between the demons were the one who knew him, right? And I don't know. And so why I posted these pictures was this is my real big question is how do we heal from this? What are the steps that you see towards healing? And I just wanted to bring that into our conversation.
Well, if you wanted to go strictly by biblical um, precedent, what Jesus did was cast out demons.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be cast out before the person can be healed. So I think coming to some sort of consensus that about what is evil, what is the demon, because we're so deeply divided about what the demons in our country are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, they're white supremacy, systemic racism, inequitable policing, income inequality. That's what I see as evil.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that man walking through the Capitol with the Confederate battle flag over his shoulder thinks that. I think he sees evil as things that I see as just diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you can, how do we come to any consensus? I don't know. Although, I think, just time takes care of a lot of that. And people in general are pretty good. I mean, we've all sinned, but people in general are pretty good. And so things that people accept now that they wouldn't have accepted 50 years ago as just normal, that.
What I'm struck by is that sense of that Jesus does cast out the demons. And I read an analogy today about how some folks want to say, well, it's just these bad apples, right?
Oh, yeah.
But bad apples destroy an entire batch slowly but surely. Will destroy all the apples around it, and the only way to take care of that is to take those bad apples out.
Right.
And so yes, like how do we begin to um, heal ourselves of white supremacy, of racism, of economic inequality. That the economic and you know what and the fear that lies underneath all of those, right? Because I feel like um, I'm hoping anyway. I'm hopeful that this rising up and this extreme violence that we this insurrection is really the death throes and the death cries of the end of an era.
Yeah.
And when there's an end, right, the demons squawk loudly, screech loudly because they know the end is near.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that that's what this is, and how what we can learn from it, and how we can go, you know, how do these scenes maybe get us a little closer to here, right? Because that's those are very they're not one and the same.
No. Well, and you when you talked about addressing the fears that, I mean, some of this is just, I mean, if you want to put it in psychological terms instead of theological terms, some of this is just narcissism and psychopathy. You know, sociopaths and people who don't understand or even know what empathy is. They don't feel it. Some of it is that, but you, like you said, a lot of it is fear. A lot of it is and fear deep down, I think, comes from our survival instinct, our desire to survive. And if we can address some of the inequalities and share the wealth, make you know, if the rising tide can lift all boats, if we can make things better for everybody, you know, people not going bankrupt because they are sick, and people not losing their apartment because they, you know, missed one paycheck and that kind of thing. If we can make it better for everybody, then a lot of the fear level will damp down.
Right. Because that's exactly what's happening. So some of the neighbors that we work with, right, as we listen to their story, and then as we meet as a team and talk about how we might best be able to help them, right, some of the questions come up like, well, you know, are we sure that the income meets whatever the needs are? And of course, my answer is, well, they do, as long as nothing disrupts the income flow. As soon as, so for example, the one worker in the household gets quarantined, um, and then during that time, because it's an hourly worker, doesn't get paid, then that means that next month's rent is going to be really difficult to do unless that family doesn't eat, or unless that family doesn't pay utilities. You know, so it's just this one. And that's, I mean, there's so many people that are living right in that edge. And so coming to understand that, and to understand the fear, and to understand that, um, and this also goes for my siblings who have experienced oppressive racism their whole life. And then now when things are happening, people are like, oh my, or we're learning about ourselves as Americans and what our history has done, and people are saying, oh my gosh, I didn't know that happened. And they're saying, but we have been screaming for hundreds of years. How did you not know this happened? And those people who are living on the fringes of the economy are also saying, you know, how do you not know we're here? And then the answer is, a lot of us do know. The question is, do we care? Do we care? Do we care enough to change the systems and the economy in such a way that their reality is changed? Right? And so there's this huge foment, and there's also this huge sense of, there hasn't, so many folks thinking that their way of life, and their way of life is going to end and change, but that's this ongoing thing. And so these mythologies and lies that have been shared about what it means either to be an American, or what it means to be white, or what it means to live in this country, all of those things they're seeing threatened, and they don't have the resources, the capacity to deal with that change. And so it foments into something like this, and carried along with some folks who are narcissists and sociopaths. So at the eye of the hurricane. So it has just been astonishing. So Heidi, I'd love to have some music.
All right.
I'm going to go back to the picture of Galilee, maybe. Are you going to share a video or just audio?
I could do either.
Let's do your video, and then I'll just stop sharing.
Okay. So let me talk about this for just a moment. So this is not a typical selection for this week, but I came across it when I was looking for music for last Sunday, and well, it definitely wouldn't have fit on Sunday morning. So I'd never heard this song because I am not a TV person. So I did not know that this was a song that has been used for a Brawny commercial or a Giant commercial. So I don't know what exactly it is, but it's called Walk With Me. And it's just this really, I think it, well, I'm just setting it up that way. So I thought the lyrics for this song really fit well with kind of just the general theme that we've been kind of discussing over the last couple of weeks. So let me.
Hi, Arthur.
Hi.
Walk with me, I'll walk with you. Down these troubled roads we've stumbled into. We're all in this thing together, we're gonna make it through. If you walk with me, I'll walk with you. Be there for me, I'll be there for you. When we're running out of hope, when we don't know what to do, like a candle in the darkness, shining bright and true. Be there for me, I'll be there for you. Oh, everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Alright. 'Cause you and me got better days coming. Yeah, everything is gonna be alright. Walk with me, I'll walk with you. I know the rain of today will bring tomorrow's bloom, where we can't see where we're going, what the world is coming to. You walk with me, I'll walk with you. Gonna be alright. Walk with me. Alright. Ooh, I will walk with you. Alright, everything. Oh, walk with me. Gonna be alright. And I will walk with you. It's gonna be everything. It's gonna be alright. Everything. I will walk with. Gonna be alright. Ooh, gonna be alright. Everything. And I will walk with. Gonna be alright. I will walk with. Gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. Walk with me. I will walk with you.
I love that song.
Wonderful.
That was
Will
awesome.
you mark it on LinkedIn?
Ah!
You connect with
Uh-oh.
customers.
See, I'm so glad it happens to you because it always happens to me. So I'm glad I'm sorry. That's not nice. I shouldn't be glad it's happening to you, but you know. All right. Well, I do have one last thing I want to share with you. And that would be this video from the work of the people. I think it works well after your song.
Build our house on you. We place our trust in you. Our hope is found in you alone. We build our house on you. When darkness takes our sight and straining has made us blind, our hope is found in you alone. When darkness takes our sight, when rulers rule by fear, your rule of love will still be here. Our hope is found in you alone. When rulers rule by fear, if justice doesn't come in this life under this sun, our hope is found in you alone. If justice doesn't come, so justice come, justice come. Roll on down the hills, come on. Roll on through the prairies deep. Roll on o'er the mountains steep. Roll on through the deepest seas. Justice come, justice come. Build our house on you. We place our trust in you. Our hope is found in you alone. We build our house on you.
So, to all that is chaotic in you, let there come silence. Let there be a calming of the clamoring, a stilling of the voices that have laid their claim on you, that have made their home in you, that go with you even to the holy places, but will not let you rest, will not let you hear your life with wholeness or feel the grace that fashioned you. Let what distracts you cease. Let what divides you cease. Let there come an end to what diminishes and demeans, and let depart all that keeps you in its cage. Let there be an opening into the quiet that lies beneath the chaos, where you find the peace you did not think possible and see what shimmers within the storm. A blessing for you all, beloved. Now, next week we won't be here because next week is Wednesday. So if you are watching and you want to join the Beloved Community Ash Wednesday service, it is at 7 p.m. And if you live locally, you can pick up your ashes to go so that you can use them in your household. And I hope to see many of you there. And thank you, leaders, tonight. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time for REframe again on Wednesday at 6:30. Bye, Arthur.
Bye.
See you all later. Blessings.